It's a nice sunny day today for this point, folks, especially noticeable in the United Kingdom at the moment, so generally speaking that the temperature itself, well, wasn't nearly as high as I was hoping it would be, but until this Thursday, holy macaroni, it will get a lot more hotter as you progress, well, for certain days northwards, so even then I just want to classify that as want to warn you, so even then though, hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Duffy Duck here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the Nintendo Wii/Nintendo Wii U eShop download. So, last time we did manage to start things up with World 5, and also at the same time we did manage to able to gather several power stars during the likes of the Prankster Comet missions. So, yeah, today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be continuing things on the forms of in World 5, so that we can able to hopefully collect some more of those power stars throughout the entire journey. So even then though, I don't suppose we could able to come across to some of these revisited galaxies from World 3 and especially World 4 for the time being. So for the time being, speaking of which, we're focusing on World 5 as it is, and I did not meant to activate that, so to speak. So even then, I don't know how many stars you need to get to able to actually access to this path, but even then I just accidentally activated like nothing else. But at least we can able to continue for that point, but rather than not going there just yet though, because even then, let's hit into the forms of the next stage, as you can see right there, which is Upside Dizzy Galaxy. So, a walk on the weird side. So it's basically it's more accurately a spiritual sequel to Right Side Down Galaxy, but except the fact that what makes it a little bit different than the forms of how it does it from last time is that, well, obviously some of these different segments from time to time, and especially noticeable there was actually like two different sections for the time. So even then though, that once again we need to put up with the forms of the actual arrow gravity segments from time to time. So even then though, you probably get the idea of how this is going. So even then though, yeah, as I said before, that today's day is the forms of the 23rd of July, in this case in 2019. So even then, as I mentioned it to you guys before, the weather condition at the moment during today, especially noticeable whenever we get to Thursday, because I say that is because you remember how Sonic actually mentioned about this since the forms of yesterday's video of NES Remix 2 video, that he did manage to able to decide to actually go and switch things up a bit when it comes to uploading videos daily. So even then though, well, you know, for this week in particular though, but don't worry though, for Super Mario Party, is that it will be relatively the same. So even then though, like, recording in the actual weekends and all that stuff. So you probably get the idea for that solution here. So, and as you can see for this point, folks, we are now approaching on to the secret mission at this point, and this will be the final time we're gonna do this, because, well, at least unlike in the original Super Mario Galaxy, that you have to do it twice as Mario and twice as Luigi, so that's a grand total of, let's say, 4 times you need in order to actually just complete that missions, or these few sets of missions. At least even then though, in this game, we only come across into those kinds of missions for about twice, so... And it's actually a little bit more tricky and difficult compared to the forms of last time, because now they actually put up too many box crates instead of like some sort of a small amount. So, but even then, when you get the hang of it though, especially noticeable with the actual usage of the actual motion controls with, you know, chucking up these fireballs and all of that stuff, then you would deal with it no problem. So even then though, and I believe this will be the final time we're going to be seeing this particular cinematic, because as soon as when that's been done, well, we got ourselves, well, first of all, the secret mission's name is Burning Upside Dizzy. So even then, yeah, you probably get the idea for that. Screamingly powerless, what in the universe is that thing? It looks like a flower with a face. Wow. It's a fire flower. Well, I'm gonna say there, you collect some of the most interesting stuff I've ever seen. Well, at least back in the likes of in the 2D days, from the likes of the original Super Mario Bros. With the Fire Flower, and that pretty much concludes the actual power-up storage display, because even then though, we're not gonna able to come across into there ever again. Well, at least there's actually a little bit of a secrecy going on right there, but I'll save that in the likes of in the next video. Because of this though, we'll have to able to actually carry on doing, collecting some more of those power stars throughout the entire you know, portions of it, and especially noticeable with some other stuff has been working on with. So even then though, yeah, everything's all come together for this point. So, yeah, as I mentioned to you before, today's day is the 23rd of July in 2019. So, because generally speaking, this is Tuesday today. Because, well, Sonic's mainly going to be focusing on, you know, between NES Remix 2, which he's currently doing those, and during the likes of in, I would say for about Monday, Wednesday, and Friday uploads, specifically on this week, because even then until next week, well, it'll able to actually go back into its normal state, because even then, that, we just want to get these Let's Plays finished before the actual, other set of Let's Plays we are currently doing, we are still going to be continuing. So even then, that's as far as I can usually think about this for the time being. And speaking of which, actually, is the fact that there's another reason that how the fact that, well, apologize with the actual, like, you know, some of these, lack of uploading schedules and during time-wise. Most notably because of how the fact that not only the weather itself is ridiculously hot in comparison, well, it wasn't until Thursday, mind you, well, specifically this Thursday, because as far as I've heard, it might actually bring us to ourselves, I would say for about, 33 degrees, which is ridiculously hot. Well, at least as far as I can usually tell from that specific, temperature standards. So, anywho though, another thing I want to point out right away is the fact that there's actually a new Pokemon game just recently came out on the iOS, which is that is the forms of, you know, Pokemon Rumble Rush, which, generally speaking, these series never seem to give up, don't they? At least ever since back in 2009, and then in 2011 they got a sequel, and in during the likes of in, you know, back in 2013, we've got another third sequel, which is on the Wii U, which is sadly lackluster, and the fourth sequel, which is on the 3DS once again, but this time around though with in-game purchasable items, which is specifically for those little jewels or gems, if you really want to call it that. So, and now we have the 5th entry of the Pokemon Rumble series, because as far as I can tell, I believe it's been about like 4 years since the last installment, which is the forms of Pokemon Rumble World, which I can understand for this little solution right there. And now we actually have ourselves the 5th Pokemon Rumble game, but this time around though on smartphones. And oh, we got ourselves a star icon. So even then, let's see what Lubba has to say. Hey, you have 77 power stars. How lucky. Which means we actually got ourselves 77 power stars, meaning about the fact that 77, or 7s for that matter, was actually a lucky number. So that actually is pretty cool though, especially with that little brief moments worth noting for, because you know how with casino gambling slots manage to have themselves lucky 7s on their slot machines? That's actually pretty much how it goes. So anyway, so let's move on to the next stage in this game, which we have Slip Sand Galaxy, and here we go with Squizzard's Sanding Sinkhole. Well, apologize for the actual tongue twisting in the end, folks. So even then, there's Luigi right there. But then again, we'll save him up and during the likes of in you know, the future points of this Let's Play. So don't worry, we'll come across into that. So anywho though, and for I've played Pokemon Rumble Rush, well, it's okay. I mean, nothing substantially amazing, because, although, that's not to say that game was not easily the horrible game in the series. That honor goes to the third one, mind you, which is on the, you know, for the Nintendo Wii U. But it's just that we've already seen these concepts like this several times since, during about a decade ago, which, speaking of such, the original Pokemon Rumble for the WiiWare, although it's no longer going to be purchasable anymore because of how the fact that, well, the Wii Shop channel is now dead, that game has now basically been released for about, well, almost a decade old. Well, at least even then though, until, you know, November that time, which, ironically enough, that came out exactly the same day as, you know, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. So even then though, that's, well, a little bit of an odd coincidence anyway though, at least to me though, from my experience, but, I would able to actually go for Pokemon Rumble series, well, at least for the actual Let's Play standpoint, but my problem with that is the fact that, well, the lack of capture card recordings between, well, for the 3DS, and especially noticeable, well, I still have my capture device on my phone, but most of the time, though, the audio syncing issues is actually a little bit more present here, especially when it's, like, too much too much screen to able to actually get adjusted with. And that's also another reason why that originally we're about to be going through the third and the final My Little Pony game on Budget Studios, which is you know, Pocket Ponies, which what I've heard of it is actually some sort of like a combination of both some sort of like a collectible action figurine sort of game like that, especially with some RPG elements here and there. I would normally try and able to go for that Let's Play, but sadly though, because we did have some technical difficulties during the likes of in the past few days, most notably with the actual audio seeking issues and all that stuff, so I just want to classify that. This looks very familiar for those of you who ever watched the Let's Play of Sonic Lost World on specifically in Sky Road Zone Act 4, where basically we're getting chased by the forms of something a little bit more deadlier. Although this time around though, we're getting chased by those little cylinder objects, which I don't know what they were named, but even then I'll find things out whenever we get to that certain point, so... But at least even then though, except the fact that, well, rather than just getting chased by these little rolling cactuses for some reason, but hey, at least that's something. So anyways though, here's the forms of the next boss fight in this game. I will say, out of all the boss fights in this game has to offer, this one is actually the hardest of the actual boss fights in my opinion. It's nothing too chaotic, or especially noticeable, it's not that very intensive to me though, or in this case, for this matter though. What makes it a little bit trickier for me though, anyway though, it's nothing to do with the boss himself, which is the forms of Squizzard, by the way, is the fact that you need to, in order to actually keep on attacking him, is that you need to use the Fire Flower at all times, and because of this though, you need to do a lot of wackling fast. Well, at least to make things a little bit easier, for those of you having a hard time trying to able to like wackle the Wii remote every time, well, thankfully though, there's actually an option that you can able to do by flicking the nunchuck, because most of the time I try to able to actually use my Wii remote, and sometimes it doesn't work half the time, but at least thankfully though, using the nunchuck is super easy, well, super easy, I'll admit to that, so even then though, oh god, I'm almost gonna die right there. I apologize with the actual lack of dialogue for this point folks, because let me tell you, it was really damn hot around the forms of our country at this stage, so even then once you deal feeding him for about a whole bunch of fireballs, then basically he'll be dead. Now of course this won't be the only time we've ever come across into this boss fight though, no, that will be for later time, because even then, after all we got ourselves the you know, that common medal we've already got from the very beginning, well, we are much able to figure that out and during the future points of this particular, well, for that, you know, just revisiting World 5 in particular, so, unless that there is some, prankster comments to be found around here, so at least we've already got one from, Beat Block Galaxy, so that way we can finally hit back into World 3, until when some things will happen. Of course, I would probably point things out right away, I'll do the prankster comments during the next video, so don't worry, I'll promise you guys for that, so... And then, speaking of another prankster comments, there's another one, but this time around though it takes place in World 4, versus Gravity Gauntlet, so yeah, it's a little bit interesting to say the least. But yeah, at least we can able to hit back into Slipsand Galaxy and just do the second mission, which is now Sailing the Sandy Seas. I wonder what that fuss is all about then, huh? Well, first of all, oh, does this look very familiar to you? Well, we have ourselves the returning of the actual infamous Sandbird from Super Mario Sunshine. Except the only major difference is the fact that I don't suppose there aren't any red coins to be found around here, so... I suppose what the actual mission suggests us to is the fact that we need to make our way to the very end of the actual mission, so... I guess it's self-explanatory though, for the most part though, I repeat for the most part, because, well, I'll explain more details onto that whenever we get to, for that specific section. So even then though, let's hit into this, green pipe, down you go. Although, there's actually a trick way you can able to do this though, it's the fact that if you manage to use the backflip, and that is actually a shortcut. And speaking of shortcuts like this, there you go. Because that's the way I love to do for these kinds of games like this, because even then, I just love pulling those off. There's also a secret that is usually at the very end of that specific planetoid, but let me tell you, it's really damn hard. But even then though, I did manage to test it out for my own time though, but I'll just completely skip that for the time being, because, well, after all, we got ourselves about, like, I would say for about, I don't know how many extra lives we got at the moment, but even then I will find out for that specific point, but at least even then, we got ourselves 12 extra lives slash 13 extra lives, because again, if you have the actual lives counted to 0, this means you have like 1 chance left. So yeah, it's very similar to the first game. So even then, there's no need to able to actually get ourselves a little bit more comments about it. So even then though, yeah. And there's also another big differences between the forms of the Sandbird section than the likes of how it does it on the Super Mario Sunshine counterpart is that, well, obviously Chemix was a thing, and especially noticeable with these cactuses that you need to avoid. And if you do fall off on that part, however, though, you're able to get sink into the actual sinkhole, and you die instantly. So even then, you have to watch out for that. Especially noticeable with the actual Fireball spell attack for Chemic right there. So even then, once you're able to dodge that, you should be okay, but it wasn't until at the very end of the sequence that it makes it a little bit difficult, as a matter of fact. So yeah, I can't even believe that we're actually on, I would say by the forms of the 12th part at the moment, so even then, if you couldn't tell for that little title description already. And so far, we actually got ourselves about 78 power stars so far, so even then, that, I would appreciate about that specific stuff for that matter, though. So even then, oh god, that Silver Chub! How did he come back? I've already killed you from, you know, ever since during the likes of in the Masterpiece Galaxy. Oh, wait a minute, I get the point. You're having a payback on us. So, turns out at the very end of the actual level, if you think this mission was over and during the likes of in a very simple, easy, you know, long jump just to make it to the actual power star itself, well, turns out there's actually this one last obstacle that we need to worry about. And that is, of course, the Silver Jump. And, you know how Silver Jump's best able to directly home in onto you? Well, we no need to worry about that, because not only does it try to home in on you, but it's also the fact that, well, it'll attempt to able to break some of these pieces of the actual Sandbird in pieces. So, yeah, definitely a little bit of a difficult part around here, so I just want to warn you about that. So, anyways, so let's move on now to Shiver Burden Galaxy, which is basically, it kind of reminds me of that stage from the original game, where in Freeze Flame Galaxy, you have a combination of both ice elements and especially noticeable with the lava elements, but this time around though, we have ourselves Shiverburn. So here we go with the actual mission on Shiverburn Galaxy. We have Prince Hankanane's Peppery Move, which, gotta think about it though, it kind of reminds me of King Catalyst from the original game almost, but except the fact that he now got himself the actual, I would say a vehicle contraption this time, as opposed to stay onto the lava at all times. And this time around, though, it takes place in the ice skating arena now. So even then, it just makes it a little bit more, I won't say that much challenging though, but we'll get to that sooner or later. Because, if you couldn't tell already, much like the ones in how it does it in, you remember in Freezy Flake Galaxy that we've already done this secret mission throughout? Well, turns out there's actually a green pipe that is almost right near to the launch star, which even then, let's not get into the launch star just yet though, because as soon as we get into here, we have the champ. Which, I don't suppose we actually just managed to meet up with him, at least ever since back in, I would say, in speaking of Freezy Flake, I think that was the last time we actually meet up with him, so. And I believe fundamentally though, is the fact that he's trying to say is the fact that it plays out exactly like how he did from before, ever since in Freezy Flake Galaxy's secret mission, but the only difference is this time we need to reach up to about 600 points or above, so I think this might be potentially be a little bit more trickier than the first time around though, because, well, if you manage to memorize any single placements with all these little, you know, the actual green, gummies, especially noticeable with the golden ones especially, well, you need to figure out where the actual things are. So, and be sure you not to get screwed over at least once or twice, because if you screwed up at least once or twice, well, you're probably not going to make it to the top score. So even then, though, definitely get advantage onto that though. And I remember back in the day, speaking of which, I did have a hard time on that specific mission for the first time, because, well, the actual purple ones give me a hard time with it. So even then though, unfortunately though, we didn't even make it to that top priority. So even then though, at least thankfully though, it gives me an opportunity to able to retry it again. So even then though, no need to able to lose an extra life or anything like that. So yeah, it's kind of like how we did on that, the garbage dump missions in the original game, and especially noticeable with the burning boxes mission in this game. So even though you don't need to worry about the actual losing life or all that stuff. The only time you do lose life on certain mini games though is I'll be some of these champ challenges, like for instance the Stomp challenge, as well as the forms of some other ones, which we'll get into that in the future. So even then though, if you manage to get the hang of it though, with this success with this secret mission, you do it just fine well enough as it is. So even then though, but again, it takes you a lot of practice if you manage to like almost messed up at some points, most notably with the actual memorization with all these gummy sections worth noting for. So, and then when you reach for about over 600, then you would able to actually pass. Whoa, you got 610 points. I can't believe you actually beat my score. You might be my internal enemy, or rival I should say, and once again the power of his clap. So even then though, that way we can able to get a power start. Is it just me, or is he busy playing Donkey Kong Country? Well, not so much Donkey Kong Country, but to be more accurate, Donkey Kong Jungle Beats the whole time. I'm pretty sure he managed to get himself the actual ability of that power. Well, I don't know it for surely though, but it's never explained why, but And the secret mission on this level though, as you can see on screen, is the Champ's Ultimate Skating Challenge, because, you know, it's essentially the sequel to the Ice Skating Challenge mission from the likes of Freezy Flake Galaxy, so... And right off the bat though, we got another prankster comment right here, but this time around though is going to be located in Slipsand Galaxy, which again I'll do those in the next video, because, well, one pointing out that Sonic needs to get back onto, you know, NES Remix 2, so that he definitely need to finish up or wrap things up with that specific game before without any further delays or anything. So even then, you probably get the idea of how the reason why the actual uploading schedule for, well, not in a very significant differences, but it's just that it's just only for 1 week only. But then until then, for the future weeks and onwards, hopefully it goes back into its normal state, because even then, well, again, we'll get to the forms of 2020 for that discussion until by that time. So even then though, we'll go ahead and go back to this level for the second time, and this time around though, we'll do the mission as normal. So even then though, yeah, basically if you manage to ground pound the actual switch, well, basically everything else is all now in a freezy ice setting. So even then though, like, just like in the first game though, is the fact that in Freeze Flame Galaxy specifically, every time you're able to actually get into the actual icy, snowy environment, it just goes like some sort of a calming, relaxing chiller, or in this case the actual chill out music tone. Whilst in the forms of you either get to the actual lava or the hot lava area, basically it just managed to, I'm an idiot. I keep thinking of the Comet Medal, but I'm guessing it might be until later on though, so, but oh well, at least we did manage to get back up onto it, so let's grab that extra life. And, hopefully though, there might be a common medal around here, such as this one. And, hopefully though, we're getting quite close towards the end of, you know, World 5 in particular. Well, at least for the most part though, So there's a checkpoint right there, so hopefully we could able to, you know, skate along and just trying to dodge a lot of lava, and you probably get the idea of how this will go. So, anyway though, I guess there's not much else I could really talk about this at this point, guys, apart from the fact that, well, Pokemon Rumble Rush on the iOS has been now finally coming out on the iPhone now. So even then though, because they've already previously released that in specifically on Google Play type of you know, that platform. I'm not exactly sure how do I describe that, but even then though, because, well, basically I've not even researched at all with all this Google Play stuff. I know some of them are, but usually from my technical standpoint, I never actually looked upon Google Play styles. So even then though, because I'm more used to with iOS store and stuff. So even then, you probably get the idea for that. So anyways though, oh wow, I'm having a hard time on that specific part right there. But at least we did manage to make it through here. So anyways, there's a midway point right there. And I would be perfectly fine without even getting the actual a spare life stream, because there are some abundance of coins there. But anywho though, so here we go with this next boss fight right here, which is the forms of Prince Puckalane, which is basically, as I said before, it kind of reminds me of King Catalate from the original game, but this time around though is now on the actual vehicle contraption. And the biggest difference is here now is the fact that not only this usually takes place in almost like the figure 8 ice rig or something like that, but it's also the fact that, well, you can able to actually utilize the actual coconut stuff once again, because yes, much like before in the original game, is that in order to actually kill these guys, then you need to able to reflect the actual coconuts right back at them. Well, specifically the green normal ones, because if you manage to able to actually caught off guard by the actual flammable red fire ones, well, you're potentially gonna get yourselves burned, so you just have to watch out for that. And apart from that though, if you manage to get 3 hits on him, well, you're pretty much done for him for good. So yeah, that's as far as I can go for that boss. It's actually not that challenging, to be honest with you guys, apart from the fact that in the third phase can get pretty tricky for some people, but for me, I just simply managed to dominate it as far as it will go. So even then though, I think that pretty much takes care of Shiverburn Galaxy, at least for now on anyway though, but at least until when it gets to the point until on the future points, well, I think there might be some of these prankster comments we might actually come back for, but even then though, after all, we got ourselves 33 of those things, and do we get ourselves something out of it? Of course, we have ourselves a famous letter right here, but somehow it's basically the exact same one, so at least thankfully though, we got ourselves 50 more of those star bits, so I believe we actually got above about 3,000 of them so far, which is actually pretty good in theory though, but even then, that's as far as I can usually think about it. So anyway though, so let's hit into the forms of the actual Hungry Lumber right there, just for the sake of able to actually feed him for the 5th time in this game. So even then though, and he probably needs about like, 1,500, or in this case 1,500 of those star bits. And sure enough, we can able to actually access to this next level. So even then though, apologize with the actual, another reason why it took so long to able to actually upload these specific stuff like this is that, yet again, my microphone has actually gone pretty glitchy or glitched up yet again. I didn't jinx it or anything, I just did not know that my USB connector just sometimes doesn't want to let me to able to record most of this stuff as far as I'm most likely concerned with, which really does tick me off most of the time, but even then, let's see. Fleet Glide Galaxy, which I think may be something to do with the actual, the Fluzzard gliding again. So speaking of such, Fluzzard's Wild Battlefield Glide. And obviously the setting is usually becomes different now because it's more accurately like a battle fleet instead of the actual jungle. So at least even then though, at least we already done that level for twice. So, but anyways, let's get this thing to it by going for the actual Fluzzard flying training again. So Fluzzard, he says you're okay and that you can able to glide with him. So let's glide. And obviously, same old deal is the fact that we need to go for the actual Big Sun until the actual mission's done. The mission's finished. Sorry for the actual, the dialogue error or anything like that for this point, folks, because I know for the fact that it's ridiculously hot today. Well, not as ridiculous whenever we get to first day on the other hand, though, which, talking of which, I was also able to mention more on that until in the future points. Now, as far as getting a common medal on this level though, it gave me a hard time on it. It's nothing to do with the actual level itself, at least I remember that for so long. But the problem with this is the fact that in order to actually get, like, obviously in order to actually get the actual, the common medal is the fact that you need to able to go through, 5 gates. Very simple, really. But the trouble is, though, is the fact that, not so bad on the 4th gates, though, or these 4 gates, but the 5th and final one is giving me a hard time. Most notably on the 2nd gate, because the 2nd gate, I don't know, it just gives me a hard time on that for some reason, but at least even then. If you manage to figure this out, though, well, I think the best strategy for this is do a nosedive, and then that way you should be able to steer it properly. At least even then, though, it at least does manage to work with me half the time. So, anyway, so at least we managed to got that, and wow, we keep on getting smacked by, you know, any sort of walls or anything. So this might generally be the hardest gliding stage of the entire game, just because you'll attempt to be able to get smacked lots. I mean, smack a lot of time. No! That thwomp is in my way! Ah, the thwomp is in my way. God dang it. Oh well, we'll try this again, and hopefully, for the 3rd time's a charm, hopefully we can able to bypass this. So, but at least even then, no, it's not too long, regrettably, but at least even then, no, if you manage to try to get the common medal, that will be the only challenge I can think of. So, but if you're trying to figure it out, though, you should be okay. But apart from that, though, it just makes it a little bit more tricky, and it might actually take a lot of practice in most of the time, because, wow, I seriously swear to God, if I try to steer it to the left and all that stuff, or trying to turn left, well, most of the time, it doesn't seem to be able to turn as accurate as I hoped. And also that Thwomp almost trying to kill me right there. But at least I managed to be able to bypass that, so at least even then, though, that's pretty much something else entirely. So anyway, though, so let's go ahead and, you know, oh jeez, we're not doing so well, aren't we? At least compared to the forms of Wild Glide Galaxy, that I found was a very, very simple and easy stage, because it's obviously in World 2. But every once in a while, during World 4 and onwards, it just gets a little bit more tough and challenging compared to the forms of you know, the very beginning. And of course, like before, if you bypass all the 5 gates, then you would able to accomplish the actual common medal requirements. So, yeah, simple, self-explanatory for the most part though, but only if the fact that you were able to actually gather yourselves, you know, the second gate to, you know, just bypass. But there we go, I think that pretty much takes care of the forms of, that particular mission, so we won't be back in here for the time being, well, until later on though anyway though, which, we'll explain more on that whenever we get to that specific point, so... And fundamentally though, I think we actually got about 82 power stars so far, which fundamentally though, it will be true. So even then though, 82 power stars and 34 comet medals and, you know, 1614 star bits. So, and conveniently enough though, we have another Prankster Comet right in the forms of Shiverbone Galaxy, so that again will get to those exponentially in the future though, so even then though, now let's hit on to the forms of the Bowser Jr. stage, or to be more accurate, the final Bowser Jr. stage. And that is of course Bowser Jr.'s Boom Bunker, so even then though, Bowser Jr.'s Boomstay Machine. I'm guessing Bowser Jr. was not going to give up on us for the time being, so even then though, that I guess he got himself the actual most powerful weapon on his sleeve. And conveniently enough though, we actually meet up with the actual previous contraption that he had since World 3, which is the actual the Mighty Mega Hammer, which, conveniently enough though, it is completely wrecked. Or in this case, for this matter, completely deserted. So even then though, because we've already technically did manage to destroy that twice for, you know, the normal mission as well as the forms of the Prankster Comet challenge mission. So at least even then though, yeah. And the returning elements from the original game this time, we have ourselves the returning cannons, which, just like the forms of how it does it from before, you can able to actually aim the actual crosshair at any point. But even then, the only reason why this is there is because there are some targets you can able to actually just manage to get land on. And if you manage to land on the target, well, you can able to get that specific reward. Like, for instance, we got ourselves an extra life, so... But in order to actually get that though, you need to be dead on that center of the target. And if you do manage to aim for the center of the target, then you would able to get yourself a freebie extra life anytime. So at least even then though, that's actually pretty nice little reward, I have to say so for this matter though. So anyway, so let's go and launch ourselves from that specific planetoid, and yeah, everything's all comes together for the most part though, so... Unfortunately though, there was no Yoshi in this level though, but that's okay, because even then, I'm pretty sure this level actually requires you to able to use the Cloud Flower power-up, which, fundamentally speaking, because, well, you know, you probably get the idea of how this will able to turn out to be, so... But anywho though, so at least even then though, yeah, and we got ourselves a common medal right there, just right between those little, you know, bomb mines and stuff, and as well as the whole bunch of star bits we can able to collect to top it off, and we got ourselves a Cloud Flower power-up, which we definitely need to use that until we come across into, you know, the future points, especially with the actual battle itself. So even then though, let's get into it. So, here we come, Bowser Jr. for the 3rd time, or in this case for this matter, the 4th time so far. So, or in this case, well, for the 3rd time as it is for the entire thing, so you know. My dad's gonna get angry if I let you get another Grand Star. Time to break out my Boomstay Machine. I'll just relax in my comfy cockpit and watch you go boom. Yeah, because I probably get the idea for that, how you're gonna pull us off for this point. So, here we go folks, this is the forms of the next Bowser Jr. fight, which this time around though, he calls himself his Boomstay Machine. And the difference is then the likes of how it does it from, you know, the Mighty Mega Hammer, is the fact that, you know, you need to use the Cloud Flower this time. So even then though, and also at the same time though, you need to get all the way up to the top before you're able to actually ground pound his cockpit, and then that way it'll deal the damage on him. So even then though, For the most part though, this might be potentially be one of the most difficult Bowser Jr. boss fights, which I honestly disagree of. Sure, some people seem to have a lot of trouble with for their first time playing through this though. But apart from that though, if you manage to figure this out, no problem. Oh my god, I did not notice he got himself his tank formation. And even then, he gets a little bit more, way more higher than ever before. So even then, all we need to do is basically, we need to, you know, climb all the way up to the top, and that's all you really have to do. And that was it. Just only 3 hits. Even then, though, unlike the forms of how it does it on 4 hits, compared to the forms of how it does it on, you know, the original game in the third, or the second Bowser Jr. level, but at least even then, we don't need to worry about the actual tossing the actual Koopa shells for the time being. So at least even then, we got ourselves the 5th Grand Star in Super Mario Galaxy 2, so that we can access to a new world, or to be more accurate, World 6. And conveniently enough, this will be the final time we're going to be seeing this sequence right there, because even then though, after when World 6 has been concluded, well, we're not going to see this scene ever again, because, well, I'm pretty sure we're pretty much done with all these access to portal stuff, so at least even then, we actually pretty much sorted up as it is. So, there we go. And we got ourselves 83 Power Stars and 35 Comet Medals. So, and in exactly 1,000 coins. So, top notch that is. That's the 5th Grand Star. I had a feeling you could do it. Next up is the 6th world. And you know that monsters, or Bowser monsters, going to put up in an even a stronger fight now. So let's get those Power Stars and save your special one. The big fight awaits. The helm is yours, Captain. And of course, this will be the final time we're going to be seeing this sequence right there, because obviously we're now able to actually approach onto the actual the final main world of the game. At least expecting for the another world coming up, which we're not going to spoil things too much about it for that specific details, but that's besides the point. Oh my god, it's got this gigantic black hole. At least even then though, it looks a bit more, I don't know. The battle draws near, do your best, and let's get him this time. Yep, without any sword fleeing behind now, so at least even then, we'll stop right here, and seem to say for this point folks, we'll get the endings off at this point right here. So, yeah, join me next time on Let's Play Super Mario Galaxy 2, is the fact that we're about to be taking on World 6. But before we do World 6, we need to deal with the forms of the Prankster Comet missions first, and then once we're done with the rest of them, then we can able to jump onto World 6 in no time. So even then, I'll see you guys next time. Later, fellas.